Well, welcome to Conscious Gatherers. My name is Beverly Thompson, and I am here with AJ Royce.
Good evening.
All right, episode 101. And if you noticed, we had a big golden 100 on our last podcast, so that is a milestone. So I appreciate this gentleman that helps us out of making that and making it a gold. So it indeed is golden. So anyway, also we had a few more views, and we certainly appreciate that. So you are most welcome to share all of our podcasts, as we feel they're all important.
Yeah.
And it's all about understanding ourselves as we go through this enlightening process. So anyway, today's date is August the 22nd, 2023. And it's been pretty interesting the last 2 weeks. You know, we always say, what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks? Just a few things. So first of all, my heart goes out to all of those that have and are enduring the fires in Hawaii, of course, and also in Canada and wherever else are popping up. So I am going to say this because it's the climate change is being
blamed
for all of this, and to me it's obviously not climate change. So things are happening, and I do not despair, because I feel that the ones of love and light are stepping up and stepping up big. And I feel that the darkness is disappearing. And we do have help from our many ET friends that are involved in this. And they're indeed helping us to rid of all the dark fleet. They're the minions of the dark fleet. In fact, I did get that information today. So I really don't feel like I can go into it right now, but know that help is there, and a lot of things are happening. One thing I will say, because I thought it was pretty interesting, there are going to be ones that are going to try to escape, and they will not be able to. And so we might have some crashes going on, like spaceship crashes. I know it sounds like a little bit out there, but hey, that's what we do. So that's the way it is. So anyway, that was the information given today, and Royce, in just a bit, if you want to do it now, go into the information that you have received.
If you have something more to.
All right. Well, yeah, because I think hers is, it goes along with everything we're talking about, but takes it even further and deeper into light and what it's all about and who we are as humanity. So when we get this information and the beauty that comes from just even the words that we receive, I mean, it's us, but it's not us.
Well, and like a more refined part coming through.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it, because the prose is usually beautiful. And at least a lot of the things I receive, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
after you get the words, and then you start looking at how everything fits together and how well it's said. And yeah, we can pat ourselves on the back, but I really can't even do that, because it's source, I call source self, coming through, as well as our guide. So even though we are all one, we're all in this together. So anyway, that's us. And I'm talking about all the insights that we receive. And you can call it channeling, you can call it whatever you want. And we have the ability to do a little bit of, I call it projected consciousness. And you can call it remote viewing, but it's not the remote viewing that a lot of remote viewers are using, where they use numbers and then they see what they can see. This is not that. So I call it conscious projection, because.
Yeah, and another way to look at it is, the ancients said to know thyself is to know the universe. And so knowing that it's the consciousness, we are one with the consciousness. So how could we not be able to project and, when we're the one, it's all right there.
It just is.
Yeah,
it is part of us.
Just grab a hold of it.
So those of you that may have a little difficulty doing this, it's okay. The more that you sit with yourself and start understanding yourself, as we all have these capabilities, and we've been talking about how wondrous beings we are,
yeah,
and what we can really do. And as we have spoken about all the shackles that are being released, we had no clue we could do all this stuff. And so when I say all this stuff, that means teletransport or teleport, or telecommunication.
Without a phone.
Yeah, without a phone. Yeah, just using our consciousness, because so many people are experiencing, they know when somebody's going to call or whatever, and that's all part of it. And then it's getting yourself ready to experience this on a much deeper level. So it's really quite fascinating who we are and our capabilities as they're starting to be enhanced. I think I can use that word, enhanced.
Yeah, and the more we're letting go of the things that we covered ourselves up with, all of the gobbledygook, as I call it, all of the things that have been handed down to us, by whatever means, that we just absorbed and put on that garment, and it was a garment of illusion, because we're beautiful, and there's no way to really cover that up. So just take off that garment of deceit and be who you really are.
Yeah. And it is really important to do that now, because you can see what's going on in the world, and a lot of it, to me, doesn't make sense. It's like, wait a minute. With a lot of different things, with some of our rulers, with some of our, what do we call them, rulers, and our politicians, some of the antics that are being played, the whole COVID thing. Like, why in the world was that even started? And how they, tried to cover it up as out of a bat, bat soup or something like that. There's just so many things that don't make any sense to me. And by the way, I have been hearing that they're coming out with another pandemic or plandemic that I don't feel it's going to be there. They're going to try to make it very scary for us, and the masking, more vaccines, and all of this. So it's like, do we play into their games?
And you said something very important back a few lines. It was very scary, something very scary. If something makes you afraid, that's your cue to look at it, put it through your discernment filter, feel it. Do you feel the truth of it in your heart, in your being, in your reasoning? So I'm just saying that feel it out. If something makes you afraid, that's your cue to take a second look.
Exactly. Our last episode, we talked about opening doors, and it's like opening these doors and really seeing our beautiful selves, what I get out of it all. And if we go into that fear mode, then we're feeding that fear, and it doesn't make us feel very good. So if it doesn't make you feel good, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing? And at least that's what I asked myself. What am I doing? And then I start going through the processes and then just letting it go, because I'm not going to allow it to have a hold on me. And so a lot of false propaganda is being put out there, and this is going to be one of them. At least that's what supposedly is upcoming. And so, do we really want to comply and give our power away again and again and again?
Yeah. So just be wise and fill it out yourself. It has to be your decision. You're in charge of you.
Exactly. Yeah. There's nobody that's going to come along and save you. And we've discussed this quite a few different times, except the beautiful you. So, there are ones that know how to manipulate the populace, and this has been going on for, years and years and years and years. And I didn't come up with these words. I heard it from Lewis Herms, those that you listen to Lewis Herms, and they call it predictive programming. This is where they use our consciousness of fear. And when you get into that fear, because we are creators, we can manifest tragedies. So think about that. Do we really want to manifest a tragedy? Heck no. I mean, for me, no.
That's right.
And so if we go into that fear, it's like you can drop it, look at it in its face, and then just let it fall away. And it will fall away once you allow it to. Am I making some sense there?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to add to that?
I got a question mark with the word allow. Could we talk about that?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, could we talk about that? I really didn't have anything to add to it. I'm just questioning that word allow.
Well, okay, I'm trying to remember how I said it. When we allow fear to take over, we allow that within ourselves. And that's when we start taking a look at that word allow, that we don't need to allow that whatsoever. We can say, whoa, stop. You can even picture a stop sign in your mind. And then you look at that STOP.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, when I think of the word allow, I see myself as kind of stepping off to the side. It's like allowing somebody to pass through, stepping off to the side. And so that's not really, there's a lot of thought that needs to be put into that. What are you stepping aside for? So just be very conscious of what it is that you're doing, that you're so-called allowing to take place. What are you stepping aside and allowing to
and then take
over?
Yeah, and the other side of that is allowing the beauty of yourself show through.
Absolutely, yes.
So it has a lot of meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can allow somebody to pass, and that's respect. But it's interesting to take a look at that allow, ALLOW, allow. I don't know, you can parse the word out, and then it has different meanings to it. So how about that? Yeah. Well, one thing that I've been working on this past week is an article that I put together called What's Been Happening and Happening Now. And I was guided by spirit, or whatever terminology you want to use, to put together a lot of the information that I've received over the past 2 years. And so some of this information was also given to Royce, and we have shared it on our podcast, as well as some of the writings I have done. So, but I've got it all typed up, and it's like a little over 13 pages of typewritten copy. So it's quite a bit of information. And then as I was finishing this, I found myself saying, this is first segment or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And then after that came through, I went, oh,
it's not finished.
This is not finished. So um, so I want to put this out, and I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not at all technically savvy, and so I want to somehow get this out. So I do have a gentleman I can ask about this, and if y'all interested in hearing what a lot of the things that we have, Royce and I have shared over the last couple of years, that it's in writing, and it's trying to put it together so people understand. And this first segment, a lot of it does delve into the governments, or the downfall of the governments, including the United States as well as around the whole world, and a little bit of the earth changes that we have talked about. And then it goes into more about, why this is happening. And so the fall of the old paradigm, and leaving the shackles behind. And so no longer will we be shackled to untruth and the lies that are still being perpetuated out there. All right. Do you have any more comments?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So if any of you listening, have any suggestions on how to get this article out, outside of putting it out as an ebook, that is a possibility, let me know. All right, there's one thing I'm going to bring forward, and as I was going through a lot of my notes, and we talked about the predictive programming using our consciousness up here. Well, you turn that around. So if you speak only your truth, this strengthens that grid. We're all connected to that grid. You can call it the field. I mean, there's different words that we can use. So do remember that. So when you speak your truth of love, whatever it may be, or if it's, even some of the not so nice stuff, but we can take that and turn that around to understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. That people then others start feeling the greatness. It's kind of like that 100th monkey effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See the positive side of it.
Yep. Exactly. See the positive. And so this is back in 2022. I was told that in the days to come, the birthing of a new reality becomes very apparent. And so be aware that not all beings on your earthly plane are aware of such, and that as our old regime crumbles, dust will kick up and then disappear. So our government systems, I think, as most of us know, they're crumbling, and that includes the United States. And I do remember saying the United States will fall and then rebuild. And so it's okay for that to happen. I know that is a fear for a lot of people, but to me it's okay, because that's the old regimes, the old paradigm that is disappearing. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Back in the early 2000s, I had a vision where I saw George Washington shriveled up, meaning that all that he stood for was shriveling up. And on August the 14th, just a few days ago, I had another vision where I saw George Washington come back to life, and the scene looked like the end of Back to the Future, where the two people kissed, and it made everything turn around and be made right. So the whole scene was made right. And then I said out loud, tonight is the turning point. So we are at that point in our history. We have made history.
Mm-hmm. And what does George Washington stand for to you?
Well, founding for the foundation. Yeah, a foundation, an expression of foundation.
Okay. I like that. And seeing him shriveled up and now not.
Yeah.
You know, I
Come
think
back
of it
to
as
life.
robust.
Yeah.
Coming back to life. And so that's what we're seeing, and that's on a world scene.
Yes.
You know, this whole earth, because it is all of us. Okay. Interesting how these visions come to us, and then we understand what they're trying to say. So we do have to interpret. So
Yeah.
and yes, we do ask, is this really true? What am I saying here? So all of those questions we ask ourselves, because some of the things that we see is like, whoa. The other thing that came up earlier tonight today was the word forgiveness, as we're going through these tribulations, if you want to call them that. Yes, basically what it is.
Trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and remember that forgiveness is an interior motive, and so it's an instrument, perhaps, to bring out closure of incidents and issues, and of a process of letting go. Because, all right, been there, done that, don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
And
it's a way to get started in letting things go. You usually start with yourself.
You got to start with yourself.
Yep.
That's you.
Yep.
Because if you make a difference, then others will make a difference. I mean, everybody makes a difference.
Yeah.
We all make a difference. But
the unshackled version of yourself is much much more effective in getting something done than a shackled version.
Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling shackled, start taking a look at that, so you can loosen, let go of the shackles. And I'm hearing some people say, I'm still shackled to my job, and I don't like my job, and blah 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 blah. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So number one, you could quit. Well, how am I going to feed my family? And so there's things to look at there, that perhaps you are not being shackled, and then you start.
Comes down to the choices you make.
Yeah, you may start liking your job a lot more and start enjoying it versus hating it, because the more that you hate it, that feeds that old grid.
It gets. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just things to think about, and the words that we use even within ourselves. That's like, number one is always be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And then that honesty will bring up whatever issues, because that is how we are made. So be truthful with yourself. And sometimes we think we are, and we're not. And is that an ego thing, or an ego hold on us? Maybe.
Sometimes, and sometimes not.
Yeah. So anyway, it's I lost my train of thought.
But when you first start looking at being truthful about situations, sometimes it can get a little, it's like, why did I do that to myself?
Yeah.
I didn't have to make that choice. Why did I do that? So then you can't do anything about it. It's already been done. So what you can do something about is the present and the future. And so you start by looking it over, gleaning what you can, so you can see where you made that mistake, made that bad choice, or what you learned from it, and so you can move forward instead of taking all the baggage with you.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason why you did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you may feel you did the best you could at that moment, and that's okay. And so, in other words, don't beat yourself up for those choices, because it brought you to where you're at today.
Yep.
And we're at that precipice of absolute greatness. Mm-hmm. So do remember that. All right, I would love for you to share some information that you got today.
Okay, here's the insights that I put to paper. Unbeknownst to some, We have come through the ending of one age and have traversed seamlessly into another. We came out of an age of ignorance and have engaged ourselves into an age of enlightenment for the benefaction of the spiraling human species. The word spiraling is used intentionally, for it speaks of the next phase of evolution for this species, which is the evolution into a being self-generating and holding and dispersing more light. Light travels in a spiral pattern. Thus, we have the spiraling human species. Our DNA patterning follows the form of a spiral for a reason, and that being the manifestation of light. It is from light that we have our being, and it is light to which our manifestation must return, the patterning within the form realizing itself. And so we inch toward the realization of our true form once more. The age into which we have entered is filled with realizations, and one of the realizations is witnessing the falling away of false training wheels, which have served us only in the understanding of where we have been. Yet where we have been is simply an unsure and albeit unstable training ground. It is time to assume the realization of who we really are, beings of light, doing the work of light in this age of enlightenment.
That was really nice. That's just beautifully said. You know, it's our true form. We're moving into our true form.
Yeah.
And
back into our true form.
Okay.
Yeah.
And leaving off those training wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting how that was said.
Yeah.
But you can picture that, of a child riding a bike, and then they master the bike, and the training wheels come off, and then there's such a freedom in those training wheels at all are off, because you can steer the bike so much more easily.
Yeah.
So, and you're confident to do so. So that's interesting, and the word confidence comes in. Yeah, well, thank you so much, because a lot is said in that. So I those of you listening, you may want to listen to that again about the spirals of light.
Yeah, how light itself moves in a spiral. This is what I know about light and how it travels. Science may tell you something else, but I know that it, in fact, does move in a spiral. And that spiral is within us as physical beings. The light spiraling is mimicked by our DNA. The spiraling little tiny information packet, as I was told one time. But it's the manifestation of light within us. It is the way light manifests in a physical form. It's light, a patterning of light. So that's what I have to say about that.
Well, thank you. I don't know what comment to make after that. It was like, okay. Well, it really shows the beauty of who we truly are. And mention about the DNA as if tiny pockets of light.
Tiny packets of information.
Oh, information, thank you.
Yeah, but okay. It's light.
Information is light. I guess it's until you get a microscope out high-powered microscope, and all of a sudden DNA gets big. So it's the way you look at it. But it is us, and I tell you, this earth, and us being on this earth at this time to bring about the changes that are going on. That's really what's happening. And this article that I wrote is all about that. What's really happening, and it goes into the physicalness of the countries and kind of reread it here, but in the downfall of the dark ones or the cabal, whatever words you want to use. Indeed, that is definitely going on, and then the divisions that are being still trying to be made, and it's like, are we going to allow that or not? And it's really, we are sovereign beings, and it's time for us to act as sovereign beings.
Yes, and I had something else that I wanted to add about that spiraling light. If light just traveled in a straight line, there'd be a way to block it. You cannot block real light, that which is real light. I'm not talking about an incandescent bulb. That's not the light I'm talking about. I'm talking about the light of spirit, the light of true being, which is kind of beyond comprehension. So it spirals. There is no way to block it because it will find a way around whatever it is it's trying to block it.
Well, you call it consciousness. Because it just is.
Yeah.
And that makes me think about, I think we were talking about this earlier, well, we don't die,
Yeah, we don't.
We're energy. We don't die. There's no such thing as death. Only death is the physical body, but not death of the consciousness of who we are. And there's a lot of people that had near-death experiences. And
yeah, we were talking about Daniel Brinkley earlier today.
Yeah.
And he has experienced not near death, but the actual passing over out of the body 5 times that we know of.
Yeah, and came back.
Yes.
And he was clearly seeing much of what's on the other side, and he just adamantly says, you don't die. There's no such thing as death. So
so that's another fear to take away.
Oh yeah.
When you have that inner knowing that we really do not die. There's no fear of death. It has no sway over you.
It's a release.
Yeah, it's that inner knowing, that conquering of death.
Because it doesn't exist.
That's right.
Yeah. We're all part of Creator. If you want to call it the big Creator, whatever terminology, it's all there. We are part of it, or a faction of it, whatever.
It is an indwelling within.
Mm-hmm. And then we decided to get in these physical bodies to experience physicalness, what it means to create from the physical third-dimensional vessel. And yet we have the capabilities, if you want to talk about dimensions, we have the capabilities of the higher frequencies, or dimensional beingness, to witness and actually live in a higher state of reality. Well, okay, I didn't know I was going to go there. Okay, we can all say that for another day to keep going on that, unless you have more to say right now.
Well, I was just thinking about that one. It's not just oneness; it is one. With the knowledge of one, that means no separation. And how could you not create wonderful things with that knowingness of one? It's like Sai Baba said, the distance between you and God is the same as the distance between you and yourself. It's when you really think about that, it's like, oh man, there's an awful lot in that.
Mm-hmm.
That
there is no distance.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. So what you had said about the spiral of light, all of that goes into what we're talking about. So, I'm wondering if scientists have proved that. I got a feeling they have. And maybe it's out there, and we really haven't looked this up yet. I know you've written a lot about this sort of thing, and I think I have too. So, bring this all together to, if you want to physically prove that this exists, I believe it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. So we went into some interesting directions, I believe, and it makes you start thinking a little more inwardly about ourselves and each of ourselves and how truly beautiful we are.
And our capabilities, the capabilities we have. All we have to do is to put them into action.
There you go. All right. Thank you. We'll be back in 2 weeks, which will be September the 5th, 2023. And we wish you all an absolute wonderful next 2 weeks as more unfolds. And indeed, things are unfolding worldwide. And be not afraid. The more that you are happy within yourself, your space, so to speak, the happier everybody else is. Again, we're all connecting to that one, and we can call it the grid, especially on this earth, the grid of the earth. And so what you do affects another. Do remember that. But I tell you what, do you want to be happy or not? So number one is start being honest with yourself and just allow things to unfold instead of trying to control every step, because it will unfold right before you once you, I was going to say allow it.
Word allow. Get in the flow, just float. There's a movie that makes reference to that, just float.
Yeah, that has a meaning to it. When you're floating, you just kind of,
Yeah.
So we're going to be in that state. All right. Do you have any last words?
Yes. Bev, you made mention of the all of the fires and everything going on across the globe, and our hearts really do go out to everyone affected by all of this. And I would ask that everybody please keep in mind also the animals. I just can't imagine what everybody is experiencing. Please know that you're not alone. We love you and support you, and that's what I can say. Love you.
Feel your own love, and then send it out. Let that love ripple out, and others will feel it. And you can say, hey, I'd like this to be felt in Maui or wherever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
British Columbia is going through fires in Canada.
Yes, use your intention of focus.
Mm-hmm. Because again, we are extremely powerful.
Yes.
And don't discount that whatsoever. All right. Thank you. We love you. We believe in you.
Thank you for staying.
And good night.
Good night.